Yo, what's going on, y'all? What's going on? Welcome back. Welcome back to another fine episode of Audible Podcast. I'm the host, the Woody Man, the Woody Sign, the one and only host. There can only be one. Numero uno, Kentucky Fried Chicken. I don't know why I say that part. Um, I don't even like KFC like that. So, welcome back, y'all. Thank y'all for coming back from a wonderful, uh, beautiful, mind blowing, almost orgasmic hiatus uh, that I took. A lot of comments on Twitter, a lot of comments in general. Y'all, asking, inquiring about me getting the pod back up. I appreciate that. Um, that is the main reason I'm getting the pod back up. I am still under a tremendous amount of mental fatigue. But after a while, you got to kick out. And you hit the one, and it hit the two, and the hand going up, and then your feet. You gotta keep kicking out. And I plan on keep kicking out. So I like to thank y'all for all of the comments, appreciating the pod and discussing the pod and all that other good fluffy shit. But let's get to the meat to the issue. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of the issue, right? So uh the last 2 or 3 weeks specifically uh has been a little rough and tumble, right? So usually I'll get real personal about this type of stuff. Um, I like to leave, the fourth wall is typically not always there. When it comes to me, it's usually never there. But you know, uh, obviously everybody know we got a whole pandemic. I talk about in a lot of the episodes of what's going on, what should we do, just some advice, some common sense advice to a lot of people. At the beginning of this, I lost family members. Uh, at the beginning of the pandemic, at the very start in March, and so this has always been something. Um, and before there was a vaccine, before there was anything, before we even knew really what was going on, uh, I had two uncles pass, and so this has always been something the Rona and everything else. Something I've taken serious. I don't usually get all real emotional when I see or read or even hear people just downplay the effects of everything, whether they know how it would affect them or not. And on the other hand, I have really never been worried about myself when it comes to the big Rona. Um, I really don't get. I'm not gonna say really don't get. I don't get sick. I don't get a lot of headaches. I don't get any headache. I couldn't remember the last time I had a headache, migraines, or a cold, or anything like that. I might have a little snuffy, wuffy nose because I like to sleep with two fans and a ceiling fan and AC on 50. Even when it's 42 outside, uh, in here will be nice and chilly at night. So, um, I'm used to a little, stuffed up nose sometimes in the mornings. Um, but I don't have any, allergy issues. I'm not really allergic to anything. Seafood gives me a little trouble, but it's not like it breaks me out in hives. Sometimes I can eat it, and sometimes it just come right back up. I think at this point it could be a mind thing on seafood because I like a couple months ago I had a couple months ago. Whenever it was crawfish season, I ate my weight in crawfish. It didn't have a problem, and then I ate a shrimp po' boy. It didn't have a problem, and then I had a piece of boiled shrimp and did a 360 vomit um, outside. So it could be a mental thing or whatever. But giving a brief background, Jesus Christ, am I about to go to fucking surgery here? Giving a brief background just on myself and how things fall for me. I've never been, and I've said this outwards. I've never been worried about myself. I'm not worried about myself in most things. Uh, myself, just like you guys, have family members, older family members. By older, I mean 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. I worry more about them than I do about myself because I really don't need much. I can probably park in a trailer park with some. If the if a trailer park got some lights in that thing and I get some good internet, I'll be good. To be clear, um, so I don't really worry about myself. Um, I work in the industry, in the alcohol industry. Most people don't know about the alcohol industry. When they think of alcohol industry, they probably think of bars and clubs. The bars and clubs are where some young people work. As far as the waiters, the waitresses, the hostesses, sometimes. Um, but for the most part, the alcohol industry, everybody's old as cheese. Everybody's 40s plus. If you do a median on the age of most people in actual alcohol industry. I'm talking distributors, salespeople, um, um, on-premise people. That's the people that sell the restaurants. Some of them can be younger. Usually, a lot of this is shady business. A lot of distributors like to put some of the young fun tenderonis and in those spots that have to do with selling restaurants and all that stuff. Um, so that's where you can see some young people. So, but the majority is much older. So I've always kind of not always. I have since the pandemic taken a little bit more responsibility in taking care of myself because I know I have to be around other people that may not be susceptible. I myself thought I was going to be really susceptible. Um, I myself I figured I could be because you never know what's going to happen. I've had bacterial pneumonia before, which is really the only time I've ever been sick, and it sent me to the shores of Normandy and to the beaches of hell. Um, I was probably sick for like a full month, but besides that, uh, I've never had anything. I've never been, flu fever. I've never had any of this stuff. So again, time back about 3 weeks ago, your boy caught the Rona, right? Now I figure because when I had my vaccine shots, I didn't have a reaction at all. I didn't get sick. I didn't get tired. I didn't get any effects. My arm wasn't sore. I could move it. I could feel where I got the shot. But it's not like I had it's not like a lot of people that were just fatigued for a day or, I actually, got sick. I didn't have any effect at all. So I kind of figured out what was going to happen. And when I got the Rona, that's exactly what happened as well. I was, fully asymptomatic and I didn't even lose my sense of a taste or a smell or anything like that. So it was a rather I was just fucking COVID positive at the crib. Um, but it taught me a lesson. Well, it didn't teach me a lesson. It taught that I was right in how I've been handling myself when it comes to the pandemic. With always being masked up because the mask to me is not a big deal. I'm not a mouth breather. I'm not a fucking idiot. I calmly breathe out of my nose all the time. So putting a mask or even a nose over a hand over my nose, it doesn't stop me from talking adequately or talking at all. You just might hear a little difference, but um, family members are okay. A couple people just sick for a couple days, but like I said, everybody's all. I'm in a family where everybody is very nice, caring for each other, and most times, and everybody take care of their business. You know what I mean? So nobody was gonna play no games with this vaccine stuff. I know a lot of people it can be conspiracy theorists and everything else, but at the end of the day, you can also just be a fucking idiot. And uh, what it taught me is that me being fully asymptomatic and just not, even me being able to lose my sense of taste and smell will give me an indication on how I feel. Shit, should I go outside? Should I be inside? Should I be at work? Should I be in the office? Versus getting nothing from it. And of course, I don't know if the result every time would be nothing from it. Um, but had I not known, had I not gotten tested, I wouldn't have known that I actually had it. So um, it just holds up to how much responsibility is on somebody like my shoulders. I don't know all the exact sciences. I would assume that asymptomatic people can still spread it because that's what we've been seeing this entire time. Um, they've been changing some verbiage on the amount or how often or the percentages or how spreadable asymptomatic people actually are. Um, so it adds more responsibility to me, but I've always had that anyway. And it's not like I'm gonna be in a circle of people for 3 hours or 4 hours, and even if it was, I could keep my mask on and breathe just fine. Uh, Either way, so it's been a very different couple 2-3 weeks. No Christmas. Christmas canceled, even though I don't know what we're gonna do Christmas anyway. But Christmas definitely canceled, and New Year's as well. Um, yeah, but it it really taught me that I've been doing things right this whole time, and to not change anything is to me. I don't see it as, oh, I don't want to get sick, and it's not on me. I've never seen it like that. You'd be a fool to see it like that. The world doesn't work like that. If anybody knew how the world works, when people say it takes a village, that shit actually means like that. And in a village, you don't have to know everybody in the village to take care of the village. You know what I mean? um so it's just one of those things. So everybody's okay, I'm okay. And with Omicron and everything, just doing a back double 18, 16, 360s. um really don't know what's next. I'm around a lot of people work wise, that probably don't really give a shit. I don't know. I just get a different I get a different vibe from a lot of people. um And I'll be honest, if I don't feel like you take it as serious as I do, I just won't fuck with you. I'm not really into a lot of talking and back and forth. So I'm not gonna say, hey, well, you really, what? Let's debate. I'm not gonna debate anything. I don't debate anything, because what I believe, is not gonna be debated. We can debate football. We can debate if a first year quarterback is a good quarterback. We can debate as a first year basketball player is a good basketball player. I'll debate those all day. But shit like this, I don't debate. It is not up for it's not for sale, for rent, or for lease. And what I believe. So uh, I just want to start this 2022 podcast. Um, it's about telling y'all to stay safe out there. You don't know your reaction. You can say, "Oh, it's just a cold, or it's just a flu, or it's just a pneumonia." That shit sucks too. Nobody wants the flu. Nobody wants pneumonia. You're a dummy. Now let's move on. And the first thing I want to get to, this story is probably a week old. Well, we're gonna start into the NBA. Let's get into the NBA. Let's move. Let's turn the page. Let me look. That's me turning the page right there. I hit the microphone too. I'm sorry, but that's me turning the page. The NBA, right? So I'm trying to think of the most recent cases, James Harden, right? As far as literally quitting in the middle of the season on your team and demanding a trade, right? That was the outmost example I could think of in the middle of the season. The season just started, but there was probably like 10 games in, maybe 8, 10 games in. It's still in the season. So it's the middle of the season. When the season starts, it's the middle of the fucking season. I've seen this with James Harden. Um, we kind of see this with John Wall, and most recently, Christian Wood. Let me write that down. I didn't even write their name down. Christian Wood, because I want to feel a little anger whenever I say Christian Wood. And KJ Porter Jr. Sure. The cat that came from the Cavs. That was drafted by the Cavs. Rather high. When was KJ Porter Jr. drafted 2020, 19. He was number 30. Um, he was number 30 by the Bucks. So he could have been a Milwaukee Buccaneer. And he got traded to Cavs that year in the draft. Wait. No. I thought he was in the 2018 draft by Denver. I didn't know he played 55 games for Denver. What Porter? This is Michael Porter Jr. Actually Kevin Porter Jr. Who? How? Okay, my bad. I wish I was looking at the screen because it says Kevin Porter Jr. That's whose name I clicked on. I was like, when did this man go to Denver? Like, what the hell? It says Michael Porter Jr. I kicked Kevin Porter and got to Michael. Either way, he played 50 games with Cleveland, right? Before getting kicked off the team, literally kicked off the team for fighting a coach, right? So you have a 21, it was 19 then, Euro kid that is expected. He's expected to grow up extremely fast, right? Um, because he's 19 and he's on the NBA team and he's probably making six figures, right? So just looking at him off the rip and looking at his play and looking at his attitude and him trying to fight coaches in two different teams in two different cities, and he's 21 and he's fully tatted. Okay, tattoo culture. What what happened? 18, 19, Lonzo Ball got a Mount Rushmore of niggas on his like chest or something like that. I don't want to I don't want to question Lonzo Ball's blackness, but Lonzo Ball isn't a predominantly he lives as a white man would live. I'm really confused on the significance and meaning of tattoos. I'm sure that went down the drain like 10 years ago, right? But when you 18 and 19, like what are you doing? Like what's really pop? Are y'all just it's just this dick riding? What could you possibly have on your mind at 18, 19? You ain't off the porch, y'all playing basketball. You ain't off the porch. Y'all playing basketball. You never been to jail. Y'all playing basketball. So, and this is not just Kevin Porter Jr. Even though we're still speaking about him. What's going on? Well, how? Why niggas got a few mural on his chest? Why does Lonzo Ball? I know 6 million people blacker than Lonzo Ball. Why does Lonzo Ball have like Obama and Harriet Tubman and all this shit tatted on him? What? What? Earlier I said I don't get a headache. I'm about to get a headache just trying to comprehend fully chatted chest, arms, legs at like 19, 20, 21. You ain't in no gang. Maybe tattoo culture just missed me. Tattoo culture just flip right up by my head. It started, even though it started uh for my age group when it was that time. We were 19 and 20 when this tattoo shit started, so I I I, I don't really get that part. Um, but Kevin Porter Jr. seems very emotional. He seems like a guy. Uh, I'm gonna assume he's never worked because in order to play in the NBA, you probably have to be very diligent as far as your NBA practices and studies go. He's probably never had time to actually have a job because he's been working to get to the NBA. I understand that, but there are things that come with never having a job, and never having a job means that you don't have a counter experience. See, this is why a lot of these basketball players and a lot of these athletes and these famous people is when they lose money, they go crazy. They lose their mind because they never had it in the first place. They never had a base of it in the first place. And when they get 18 or 19, a lot of these cats who could have grown up very poor, they kind of act like they never was. Now maybe he was. I don't know his story. Maybe he grew up in a kind of a suburban household, and was well taken care of. Other people who grew up poor that are well taken care of, but maybe he grew up in a different environment. Um, I don't get people getting a very special opportunity. There's only I may have looked this up. I think there's only 4,000 people that have ever played in the NBA. How many people has played in the NBA? Let's look that up. Since 1949, a total, and this is a tweet from 2020. So from May 4th, 2020, there have been 4,509 players to play in the NBA. Let's crank that up. Let's crank that up to 40. Let's leave it at 500. I was gonna say 4,600. We didn't get 80 motherfuckers in the NBA rosters. Most of the same people. 4,500 people have ever played in the NBA, right? Now, as I've spoken about before, you're putting a ball in a hoop, and you get paid a lavish, extraordinary amount of money to do this, right? The counterbalance is maybe you never worked a job at McDonald's, or maybe you never worked a job at Walgreens or Walmart, or maybe he's never had to do anything besides playing basketball. Um, I would advise him, and also Christian Wood. And if you don't know, both of these players, because I didn't talk, I just went directly to discussing Kevin Porter Jr. Both of these players decided at halftime, Kevin Porter Jr. left the arena. He had a disagreement with a coach, and he left at halftime. Right. Christian Wood refused to come back in the game. Kevin Porter Jr. left the arena. He put his breeches on. He put his belt on. He put a shirt on. He packed his bags. He put clean socks and shoes on. And he left the arena. He left his team. He left his teammates. And most importantly, he left his money. Actually, his money. And most importantly, he left his reputation. Now, I know a lot of you may say, "Oh, I don't care what nobody think I'm eating." No. You remember Omar said his name? No, not Omar. It's Marlo. I'm sorry. Marlo said his name was his name. If you leave at halftime, bro, and you're Kevin Porter Jr., right? This is not Antonio Brown, who is a sycophant, a sociopath, and an overall crazy man. But he's a Hall of Fame talent. He's a Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer. They gonna make him wait. But he's still in his prime right now. He can still do it right now. That's why he's being rushed to teams. That's why all this is being done. You're Kevin Porter Jr., dog. You Kevin Porter Jr. We don't even know you yet. We barely know you now. So I don't know what's going on with this cat. Um, I'm sure China and Greece and Italy and Russia and Israel will have fantastic spots for this cat. But you can't be bullshitting like this in the NBA, dog. You have a very, very special talent, and you have a very small window of opportunity to collect as much as you can. Christian Wood, I've been seeing this all year. Christian Wood, I've been seeing in interviews and in these different quotes. It's almost like Christian Wood came from a team where he was like Chris Bosh, and then he got to a team where he was the man, but he was just on another team. You know what I mean? It's like if Chris Bosh left the Raptors and just went to another team by himself overall. The difference is Chris Bosh averaged almost double, not almost double, more than double of what Christian Wood averaged in Detroit. So he didn't go from Detroit and averaging 26 or 20 or 18. DeMarcus Cousins, when he was on the Sacramento Kings, he averaged like 28 and 10 for like 3 seasons. And he was considered pretty much a top 2 or 3 big man in the league. Well, what most of us know is that when you're a good player and you're on a garbage team and you're only one on the team that can get the ball, of course you're going to shoot. Of course you're going to score. But Christian Wood only averaged 13 points in Detroit. So at the beginning of the season, I see stuff like, oh, we're clicking now. Oh, this is how it felt when Harden was here. Oh, the young guys, you're not getting. And then there was one where he came in the second half, but he didn't want to score. And then this game, he refused to sub back in. Who the fuck is Christian Wood? Who's Christian Wood? Can somebody counter me? Has LeBron ever done this? Has Jordan ever done this? Has Tim Duncan ever done this? Has Steph Curry ever done this? Has Kevin Durant ever done any of this stuff? Has Kevin Durant ever left at halftime? Has Kevin Durant ever refused to sub into a game at the half? LeBron, Jordan, Kevin Durant, Tim Duncan, Steph Curry. I just named 5 players, just random. These are random 5 players. You know why I named them? And why I name great players in general? Because if they ain't do it, you niggas can't do it either. You can't either. If LeBron tell Vogel, fuck you, I ain't going back in this 4th quarter, then y'all can do it. If KD's tell Steve Nash, if you don't sit your stupid ass down, man, I'm not going back in, sitting hard in that, then you can do it. Jordan never told Phil that. Steph never told Curry that. Tim Duncan never told Pop that. So that means Christian Wood and Kevin Porter Jr. can't do it. That's as far as the argument as I'm actually going to go. Because that's it. If LeBron ain't never did it before, you niggas can't do it. Because you niggas ain't LeBron. Christian Wood averaged 13 points on the worst franchise in the last 35 years. Jerami Grant averages more right now, with more players that can actually score to throw off the usage. Cade Cunningham averages that right now. I think Sadiq Bey averaged that shit. You gonna tell me Christian Wood with Andre Drummond and Luke Kennard A nigga that can't average 20 on Detroit. A nigga that's leading his current team to losses. Rockets lost like 15 straight. You gonna tell me these two niggas can walk out and not sub back in? And you got a nigga getting paid $47 million and he don't even play. One of the last episodes was Where's John Wall? That was 2 months ago. He still ain't playing. What am I missing in the NBA right now? Harden pulled whole shit. But he's James Harden. If Christian Wood stopped playing or request a trade, what? The world's gonna keep going. Kevin Porter what? These ain't even them niggas. These ain't even them dudes like that. And it's a purely coincidence, I'm not thinking about it, that the 4 players I'm talking about are all Rockets. So I'm like halfway defending the Rockets right now, which is really detrimental to my spirit. Let's move on. Really detrimental to my spirit. A couple things I want to touch on because we approaching All-Star. And I want to throw 2 names in the hat, not for All-Star. We're just talking awards in general. We're pretty much at the half point of the season. Coach of the Year. COTF. I was trying to write it out. I spelled coach wrong as soon as I wrote it down. I'm sorry. I'm dumb. JB Bickerstaff. Currently, the Cavs are maybe a 4 seed NBA standings. They're not a 4 seed. They're a 6 seed, right? They're dealing with injury. If the Cleveland Cavaliers can make it into a top 5 seed this year, which is going to be tough. Top 5 seeds in the East is the Bulls, Nets, Bucks, Heat, 76ers. Didn't them. They're 6. 6 is really solid. The 76ers is 20-16. They're 21-17. So they're real close. They're 5.5 games back of Chicago. But I think JB Bickerstaff is my he will be my top coach of the year, and also my top coach of the year, and also a mix of MVP. Will be Mike Malone. Is it Mike Malone? Is that Denver's coach? Or is it Mark Malone? I think somebody got his name wrong before, and he went off. I'll slap fire. Out of Malone. I'll slap a thunderstorm. He can evolve Pikachu after I slap the shit out of there. Yeah, Michael Malone. So 18-17. Currently, the Nuggets are the number 5 seed, right? They are 2 seeds above the Lakers. The Grizzlies is above them. Now it's a pretty fine gap between the 4 seed and everybody else, right? So that's what a lot of people that are Lakers fan are kind of not figuring out. You see 7, 8 seeds between the 4 and 5 seed. The Grizzlies is 25-14. The Nuggets is 18-17. That's a 10.5 game gap between the Warriors that is number 1 and the Nuggets that's number 5. 10.5 games. But everything from 5 to 8 is all right there. Nuggets are 18-17, Mavs 19-18, Lakers 20-19, Clippers 19-19. It's really more about who played more games at this point. You know what I mean? With the Lakers being 20-19 and them being 18-17. They just played more games than them at this point. I feel as though with them being in the playoffs in general, right? So Westbrook got his MVP not only because of triple doubles, was because he took the Thunder to the playoffs. And the Thunder had a garbage roster, just much like they do right now. With Jokic, the fact that he's putting up absolutely incredible numbers every single night, he's playing every game with no Jamal Murray and with no Kevin Porter Jr. His ones and twos. Kevin Porter Jr.'s got $200 million. Hilarious. He's got $200 million. Jamal Murray is his number two. We saw Jamal Murray play in the bubble season. Shit, we haven't really seen him play since then. Um, but his ones and twos are out, and they are a number 5 seed. They have a better Lakers, they have a better record than the Lakers. They have a better record than the Mavs, the Clippers, and the Trailblazers. All teams that we thought will be better than them. Now, that's because it was healthy, but they're not healthy either, so it's the same difference. You smell what I'm cooking. Um, so Mike Malone, JB Bickerstaff, my two coaches of the year. For the first part of the season, I guess you'll settle out. If I have to pick now, it will be JB Bickerstaff just because the Cavs are just fucking dreaded. Jesus Christ, the Cavs. Um, so for the Cavs to see any type of winning or being above 500 with no LeBron is actually a good thing, and that's in the history of Cleveland Cavaliers since like 1993. So, and yeah, Jokic 18 and 17, they're not great, but they're all 5 seed. And he doesn't have his 1 and 2. The second best player on his team is Will Barton. That's how I like to separate when it comes to MVP. I know it was maybe it was last season, the year before. I think LeBron had got hurt. Probably like halfway the season, but it was a lot of talk between LeBron or Giannis getting MVP. And to me, MVP is not about who's on the most popular team that's winning the most. It's not even what team is winning the most. It's not even the best player on the best team all the time. In this case, it kind of was. But who's the second best player on the Lakers and who's the second best player on Milwaukee? Who's the third best player on the Lakers and who's the third best player in Milwaukee? If you do that now and you have a tight MVP race, you can't tell me that Chris Middleton and Anthony Davis are equal. Anthony Davis is probably an NBA, standings as far as what media people, his stats, what he's done. He's like 2 tiers above Chris Middleton. He would be the S tier class. Chris Middleton would be B tier class. He's not a bad player, but he would be B tier class. These are the people that's going to average 18 to 23, get you buckets, but they're just not that guy. AD is that guy, offense and defense. Not on his own team, but when he's got other guys around him, he's definitely the filler, the ultimate filler. On his own, we've seen that 7 years straight, and it's one playoff series win in 7 years. Everybody else has gotten that pass. No, nobody else has gotten that pass, but he is just gotten to be able to slide along into LeBron's wing, and that's fine. But when it comes to the MVP, it is most valuable player, and that's how I look at Jokic, and that's how I look at the entire thing. A lot of people say DeMar DeRozan. If the Bulls continue and they end off with the best record, I would put DeMar DeRozan in there. If he has these not the same stats, but similar stats to what he did, I would say DeMar DeRozan. I would say Kevin Durant. I would put Kevin Durant into the mix. I would put Giannis into the mix. I would put LeBron into the mix, especially. I would put Steph into the mix. I'm not sure if Gobert and Donovan Mitchell has played enough, I guess, to be there, but they have one of the best records. So I will put them, one of them in there as well. Josh working his way up there as well. So it's a lot going on. when it comes to most valuable, I always look at who's the second and third best player on a team, because every piece of media narrative, people always forget it when it's convenient. Every piece of media narrative is who can get on the team, who's the second best player, the third best player, this player. Why don't he go play with these other good players? The Lakers have that, and they've been had that with LeBron and AD. When you have two top five players, to me, you don't get to be MVP. You have two top five players on the same team. You could argue top four players on the same team. That's very fucking difficult to do. And that's the same thing with the Nets. That's why I said I would throw KD in the pot. But at the end of the day, it's two top five players. On the same, at least top six. AD is probably not top five right now. It's probably Bron, Giannis, KD, Hart, and Steph. With AD, coming in that next tier, has been hurt a lot this year. So this year I would put Ja Morant over him, and I would probably put DeMar DeRozan over him. And that's probably it. Well, Embiid too. So AD is still a top 10 player this year. But when healthy, he is a top 5 player. It's no doubt about that. So I like to look at that when it comes to MVP actual value. And yeah, Kevin Porter Jr., Christian Wood, that kind of got me into this. And I want to hit the basketball on it. Get your shit together. Maybe something going at home. If something like that, man, I wish all the best to y'all. Y'all never gonna hear this shit, but wish all the best to you. But get your shit straight. You niggas make like not Kevin Porter Jr., Christian Wood, this show, his shit on TV. This is getting like 89,000 a game. Shut the fuck up. I don't hear he an 89 grand a game. Shut up, man. Go hoop, man. Go hoop. Kevin Porter Jr., I think that show on a little ESPN thing, it was like 13 grand a game. Go hoop, man. 89,000 a game, and you ain't even winning. You should be happy to be there. Worry about losing, you get 89 grand to lose. They paying another nigga 47 million a year to lose. You should be happy to be there. So let's move on. I want to move on to combat sports. This is something that's been in the news a lot since Jake Paul quote unquote knocked out Tyron Woodley, right? So let's start off with that. Let's start off with that controversy, because it's been a lot of it's been hilarious. So it's some conspiracy theories going out that maybe Tyron Woodley faked it, right? I'm trying to see what I think, right? So Jake Paul and Logan Paul are tough enough guys to actually be doing this shit they're doing, like boxing and doing this shit, right? But they're too fake for this stuff to actually be real. You know what I mean? Like, so that's the line what people think is fake, because Tyron Woodley is a professional stunt double, stunt man. He does stuntman work in movies and shit. He's a fighter, so uses a lot of combat shit. They throw a punch, he knows how to take it. He drops on the ground. He's done this in several movies. So has Michael Bisping. So has several other MMA fighters, right? Let's just say, it's fake. I would say, what does Tyron Woodley have to lose? Or why would he put up so much to lose? But from his actions after the fight, including putting memes up, the best meme of him getting knocked out, I'm going to assume that the pride factor is out of the door. I'm going to assume that whatever ego or anything else, the amount of commas or the amount of zeros, threw whatever self-respect out of the gate. From getting the thing tattooed on your finger, I love Jake Paul. Whatever self-respect he had for himself, I'm sure He turned that in a long time ago for cold hard cash. Now, what he needs that cold hard cash for is not my business. But we know he needs that cold hard cash. That's why he was just going into the UFC fights, just getting mopped. And this is real tough for me to say because Tyron Woodley is one of my favorite fighters. But he went into those last UFC fights and he didn't win a round. So not only didn't win maybe the last 4 or 5 fights, he didn't lose any rounds. He didn't win any rounds of them. I'm sorry. He didn't win a single round of them in about 4 fights. 2 of them was 5-round fights. So this nigga probably lost 16 rounds in a row. Any other fighter, if they did not need the money, would have stopped. They'd have cut the bullshit. Unless he was just trying to fight out his contract. Whatever. Getting I Love Jake Paul tatted on his hand, on his finger. Another clue. Self-respect. Gone, bam, damage out the door. Do I think that the knockout was fake? No. I don't think the knockout was fake. I think he actually knocked him out. Does everything lead to it being a fake knockout? 100%. You have a professional stuntman who is a world champion MMA fighter. Nobody has more control over their body than him. Nobody knows how to fake a punch better than him. And with the tremendous amount of lack of respect, yeah, it's real tough. But what I want to get into is the kind of the MMA versus boxing thing, right? And I want to go over a couple points. You know, I'm not fucking Dana White over here. I'm not Eddie Hearn. I'm not Bob Arum. I'm not any of these guys, right? Obviously. But there's an obvious difference in the boxing model of how they get money and the UFC model how they get money. For instance, we think every time boxing is up, if most people who are casuals don't know who's throwing the fight, there's Top Ranked. There's Showtime. And like I don't know if it's still Golden Boy Promotions or Golden Promotions. There's Canelo Promotion. They don't throw 40 fights a year. The UFC is a actual like company. Think of the UFC as like the NFL. NFL has 18 now scheduled games per year. Then we got the playoffs and everything else. The UFC has like 44 cards per year, whereas Top Rank has like 3 or 4. So obviously, there's a tremendous amount of crew and production that you need for a MMA show that is happening every single week on ESPN, right? These ain't automatic cameras holding this shit. You need people holding the boom mics. You need microphone people. You need all these production people. You need all these people. Top Rank doesn't have all that. They don't have hundreds of employees. They got a couple people that set the fights up. They get the venues booked. They hire people to come in and run the cameras. And that's it. They're not there every single week. So the model is totally different. Jake Paul fights with Triller or Showtime. The last fight was 65,000 pay-per-views. So I see a lot of MMA fighters because I love MMA. The MMA fighters, as far as their mentality, they're like 20 years behind NBA and NFL players. And it's not their fault. It's a much newer sport. But what they differ is they want their cake and they want to eat it too. They don't want to be famous, but they want famous people money. For instance, I don't see a lot of MMA people crossing into any other world besides the top people. I don't see any MMA people trying to do anything different to become a superstar outside of MMA. Conor McGregor gets paid what he's paid because he brings in people. John Jones don't bring in people. We know him as the greatest, quote unquote, the greatest MMA fighter of all time. But he's not nearly a pay-per-view star. You have to be both. And I think a lot of these cats, they think they're that. Francis Ngannou is the scariest person I've ever seen on my television with a pair of boxing gloves on or a pair of fighting gloves on. Whatever, boxing gloves, MMA gloves, whatever. You want to throw some styrofoam gloves on this nigga? You want to throw two foam hands that say 316 on him? You could throw them on them hands, and he's still gonna be the scariest nigga I've ever seen in MMA. The fact is, he's not Conor McGregor famous. So when you ask for money that Conor McGregor has, but you don't bring in the same amount of pay-per-views as he has, or as Jorge Masvidal, etc., then you have a problem. Now, I understand guys like Jorge Masvidal and guys like Nick Diaz and guys like Dustin Poirier, who are, well, Diaz has been kind of a big star outside of MMA in general. But when you come from one contract to another and you don't have the pay-per-view to back it up, that's why Masvidal got what he wanted against Usman, because his pay-per-view numbers backed up the amount of money he wanted, and they justified that. And even in him losing, his pay was justified because he brings in the pay-per-views. If y'all didn't know, when it comes to pay-per-view sales, MMA has three major stars. Three. That means when these three guys are on the card, numbers are surely to go up. As Nate Diaz, it's Conor McGregor, and as Masvidal. That's not in order. In order, it would be Conor, Nate, and Masvidal. I think you mix them two, Masvidal and Nate, up, but it's probably still Nate at number two. If you look at the top UFC pay-per-view records, Conor McGregor has 4 of them. You got top 5, he has 4 of them. I'm not even Conor McGregor guy like that anymore, but you have to have some kind of notoriety to get paid this. You look at the kind of check Canelo gets. Let's just say one was 200 million, whatever, whatever kind of crazy number that I don't believe. 200 million. He's Canelo. We know him. The world knows him. The world does not know as many MMA and UFC fighters as they think we do, even though they're on ESPN. Most of them don't utilize their time. Most of them are still trying to live this private fighter life, but still want NFL and NBA money, but they don't do NFL and NBA media obligations. It's not like that. They do media obligations when they're fighting, and maybe they go do an interview somewhere, but it's not the same notoriety. It's not the same pot. Y'all are not eating at the same pot. When your mama fixing food, it's a pot with beans in it. It's a pot with rice in it. It's a pot with some sides in it. You might have some in the oven, but all the pots are not the same size, and the servers are not the same size. You get a little scoop of rice, you're gonna have more beans on that. So just because it's the NFL and NBA, and you're the NFC, you're the UFC, you may have athlete equivalency because y'all are athletes, but y'all not LeBron. Y'all are not Tyson Fury. You're not Canelo. You're not Deontay Wilder. Y'all are nowhere near these people. These people are international stars in several countries across the world. Their numbers and fame and notoriety, and even followers on Instagram or whoever, it speaks for itself. I do think MMA fighters should be getting paid a hell of a lot more. You nigga, you start me off at a 15 and 15. I gotta fight 15,000. My eyes bleed, the nose, and all this. Hell no. Of course, they should get paid more. Of course, there should be more insurance or whatever. But I don't know the numbers to all that. But I just know they should get paid more. I know that for a motherfucking fact. But to act like you should be getting 112 million, it's stupid. It's dumb. It's desperate because all that does is you shit on your own sport. All the rest of the boxing guys are shitting on y'all, and the only reason they're shitting on y'all is because MMA is way more popular than boxing, and the only type of notoriety boxing people can get is to talk about MMA. But everybody's so bottom feeding. They so used to bottom feeding, and they want money so bad they think they'll get money from anywhere. And I think it's just bad when you play yourself. So I love MMA. I love UFC. I'm not a huge fan of Dana White either. I don't fucking like Dana White. I think he's a fucking bald egg. But to to play like every co or main event of the UFC on ESPN or on pay per view should be getting $50 million, $100 million. I mean, who are you niggas in general? LeBron will get $50 million a year, nigga. And he played 82 games. NBA don't pay him that. And you don't generate a percent of what LeBron generates as far as media, as far as money across the world. So comparing yourself to that, it's just stupid. Comparing yourself to boxing, it's just stupid. Ask Canelo or ask Mayweather or ask anybody else on actual real boxing cards, not Triller fight cards. Triller fight cards are played different because these are all celebrities and real boxers that you're watching. So of course a card filled with NBA players and NFL players, Frank Gore and Deron Williams. You think they're about to get in there and fight each other for 5,000? And they've been making millions in the NBA, in the NFL. Frank Gore just retired. You think they're gonna come in there and fight for 5,000? No. But Dougal McDougalson, your ass, who ain't never had no money, you can go in there and fight for 5,000. That's just the way it goes. You can fight for 10 of them too. So to stack up how a Triller call or how a Showtime calls works. One that got $65,000 in 65 pay-per-view buys, which means they lost money tremendously. Comparing these two things is it would be ignorant and it would be unfair to MMA fighters to constantly compare themselves to things that they are not or not even close to be. I've seen pictures with Francis Ngannou and Jill Embiid. I mean, this is not a shit on Francis thing. Francis is literally my favorite fighter in the UFC. There is no other fighter in the history of fights, and this is saying this as me thinking Daniel Cormier is the greatest fighter of all time, mostly because this nigga is 5'8" and whipping real tall niggas' asses with just regular. I'm gonna grab you, tall nigga, and I'm gonna slam you, and I'm gonna really beat your ass. He beat what's the cat that fought John Jones and lost twice? Alexander. Damn, his name not coming up. I'm gonna say Volkanovski. It's not Volkanovski. Um, Gustafson, Alexander Gustafson, right? So Daniel Cormier. Let me talk to you. Daniel Cormier is probably 5'9". A lot of y'all may not watch the UFC. You may not be too into it. Y'all a little Daniel Cormier. Um, this cat's like 5'9", man. Alexander Gustafson is like 6'6". So that's why he's my favorite fighter of all time. Quick thing about Daniel Cormier. He's fighting all tall niggas. And he ain't even 6 foot. I promise you, he's shorter than AI. And he's handling big, taller niggas. He grabbing them, slamming them down, throwing elbows, and they throw it all type of shit. So that's why he's my favorite fighter. But Francis Ngannou is the scariest person to ever walk into the octagon. And if anybody should be making the most money ever in whatever history, aligned with pay-per-views, it would be Francis Ngannou. If Francis Ngannou's pay-per-view numbers came anywhere close to Conor McGregor's, I would say he should be getting paid more. It could be $1 million less than whatever. I would say he should be getting paid more because he's heavyweight. And you're gonna always make it back with the heavyweights. You're gonna always make it back. He's the baddest man on the planet. And because he's watching some YouTube nigga do something, the YouTube nigga generate more than y'all too. They generate more interest than y'all too. I don't think y'all noticed that too. The Paul brothers, they have more YouTube subscribers than all of y'all. They have more Instagram subscribers than all of y'all. They generate more attention than any UFC fighter, not named Conor McGregor. So again, even though they are brand new to fighting, you don't generate a percentage of the attention that they do, bad or good. So to compare yourself, and especially to be Francis Ngannou, any other real actual MMA fighter, to compare yourself to the pay model, to Jake Paul, I just think it's foolish. I think it's dumb. I think it's desperate. And I understand these cats get their bread. They got a window to avenue and a window to get bread. But this ain't it. And it's not gonna be it. Yeah, so wish everybody the best. Thank y'all for listening. 2022. We're gonna do this podcast thing. Real gigantico coming this year. So I think I appreciate everybody for listening. It's been a long little 2.5 months for your boy, but we back at it and we ready for that fire.